Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to England once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that has now featured on the channel a good couple of times before. This is going to be review number 5 or 6 involving this brewery on the channel if memory serves me correctly, and I've enjoyed the beers that I've had from them so far. So this brewery really made their name when it comes to the kind of hazy New England style IPAs. It's only quite recently that I've been able to review a number of their beers in honesty, and it's another one of those New England hazy IPAs that we're going to have a look at today, and I've heard that this one is pretty good, so looking forward to it, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on it as well. For this review then, we are going to go to Cheltenham in Gloucestershire towards the southwest of England, and that means that we're going to have a look at yet another beer from Deya Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called Written in the Dust. It comes in at 8% ABV, and this one, like I mentioned, is a New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, double IPA. So yeah, very curious to see how this beer turns out. This one was released here in Sweden as part of the Tillfälligt sortiment, temporary sortiment, through Systembolaget on the 16th of February 2021, and I think this is the third beer from Deya that's been released through Systembolaget so far. The first one was the Invoice Me for the Microphone, then there was the Steady Rolling Man, and I think this is the only other one since those two actually. So yeah, I'm guessing that within the next few months we'll probably get something else from them, and we seem to be getting a fairly regular supply of English beers here in Sweden now, which is always a good thing. There must be a new import company bringing these ones in and putting them through Systembolaget. So yeah, as I've told you many a time before, and particularly in my recent reviews of English beers, the beer scene in England now is really thriving actually. There's a lot of very, very good breweries down there, and Deya are one of the most respected ones, particularly when it comes to the kind of New England hazy IPAs. But yeah, the beers I've reviewed from these guys so far: the Invoice Me for the Microphone, Steady Rolling Man, the Tappy Pills, and I think the latest one was Into the Haze. So this will be the strongest beer that I've tried from them so far. Hopefully it turns out to be a good one, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So let's go for it then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Deya Brewing Company before, and you will no doubt see more added to that list at some point in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the English beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to quite regularly because, like I say, we're getting a steady supply of English beer here now. But as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Deya Brewing Company then, on to my brewery notes. So Deya Brewing Company, as I've told you already, are based in Cheltenham in Gloucestershire, towards the kind of southwest of England, and the company was founded back in 2015 by Theo Frame. So he was apparently introduced to craft beer by his dad, who brought some beers back for him from the US, and apparently they used to like drinking and trying different things together. But soon after kind of getting introduced to American craft beers, he decided that he wanted to brew some of them for himself. So he got some work experience at Threakston's Brewery, which is quite a well-respected traditional brewery in England, and he later enrolled at Heriot Watt University in Edinburgh, in my native Scotland, in the Brewing and Distilling Masters programme. But after this, he worked for a while at 5 Points Brewing in Hackney in London, and then at Odell's Brewery over in Colorado in America. But he wanted to start up his own brewery. He had a wealth of experience to do this, and initially he started brewing as a gypsy brewer at a few breweries around the Cheltenham area, and this went pretty well for him. But he later bought a brew kit from Harbour Brewing Company down in Cornwall. He secured a premises which opened up in 2016, and then over the years they've just gradually kind of continued to build up the capacity of the brewery, and by 2019 they'd scaled up to around 3,500 hectolitres of beer per year, or 350,000 litres. But they're currently equipped with a 34 BBL brewing system, and they've recently rented out the 2 adjacent units next to their premises, and they're planning to expand the brewery's capacity up to 30,000 hectolitres over the next 10 years. They've also got a large tap room on site as well, which is, they say, has really helped them kind of drive the growth in the brewery over the last few years, and they're doing very, very well at the moment actually. Like I said to you, these guys are a very, very well respected English craft brewery these days, particularly when it comes to these New England hazy IPAs. They don't brew too many styles outside of that, to be honest with you, but yeah, I'm sure recently, very recently, I think they've tried a West Coast IPA, so I will need to see about getting a hold of that at some point. But the only other beer that I've had from these guys that's not a kind of New England hazy sort of thing was the Tappy Pills, and that was very, very nice actually. But the name of the brewery actually comes from a village on Mallorca, one of the Balearic Islands off the east coast of Spain, and as of February 2021, when I'm reviewing this beer for you, they've produced around 120 different varieties, and the current head brewer apparently is Gareth Moore. So yeah, that's all the information I really have on Deya Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that these guys have done. Hopefully on my England tour later in the year, if it goes ahead, COVID permitting, maybe Adam from Mersey Beers, who actually gave me my first my beer for the first dedicated Deya review that I did, the invoiced me for the microphone, he and I might actually be able to stop off in Cheltenham and have a look at the Deya tap room and things like that. Maybe we can even arrange a Meet the Brewery segment with these guys. I'll need to look into that later on, but obviously that will be COVID permitting, and I think the England tour probably will take place sometime in kind of September. Later on in the year actually, but yeah, definitely something to look forward to actually. It would be really cool to get these guys on the channel for a wee Meet the Brewery segment. But yeah, as I say, check out all those links in the video description below, check out the websites I mentioned as well, but let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. So yeah, as you can see, it's got that typical lovely Deya artwork on it, very, very colourful, and you know, it's almost like, you know, kind of a mix between hand-drawn and kind of painted, if you like. But yeah, this is a half-litre can actually, which is quite unusual. Most New England IPAs these days are in the kind of 440s or 330s. But yeah, Deya like to do their cans and do half-litre cans. But yeah, it says that this beer has actually been imported into Sweden by Dugas Brewery, which is up in Gothenburg, one of my favourite Swedish breweries actually. Interesting that, just look at the can there, never noticed that earlier on. But yeah, half-litre can, this one. I think I paid 65 Swedish kroner for this, so that's roughly about £6, and I mean, yeah, £6, you know, €6.50, $7 American, something like that, and maybe a little bit more, maybe $7.50 American, come to think of it. But I mean, for a half-litre of an imported rather, New England IPA, that's not bad actually. Usually you would add on about 10, maybe 15 kroners for an imported New England IPA like this. So yeah, that's not bad. Normally you'd pay about 45 or 50, maybe 55 for the Swedish ones, so to pay 65 for this beer is really not bad at all, to be honest with you. But like I said, 8% New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, double IPA, and this one is hopped with Galaxy, Simcoe, Enigma and Victoria's Secret. So Galaxy, we know, about 14% alpha acid, lovely big kind of passion fruity notes. It can, I learned quite recently that Galaxy can have a wee bit of a kind of peachy sharpness to it as well, but 14% alpha acid Australian hop. Simcoe we know well as well, lovely soft kind of juicy passion fruity notes in New England IPAs like this, about 12% alpha acid. Enigma, another Australian hop, quite similar to Nelson Sauvin with those kind of white, grapey, gooseberry type things, usually a little bit of a kind of cranberry, red curranty sort of thing as well. And then we've also got Victoria's Secret in this one, which is kind of like the little brother, little sister of Galaxy, kind of similar flavour profile, but you know, just a little bit softer and things. So yeah, hop profile this one I think should be quite interesting. But half-litre can this, 65 Swedish kroners as I said. Let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting. But as you can see, you know, lovely artwork, as you're always going to get from Deya. But yeah, let's crack it open and have a taste of this one. Very, very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. Adam, that I mentioned earlier, he told me that this is a pretty damn good beer, and if he says it's good, you know, I'm quite confident that it will be. He knows his stuff. So yeah, I think that'll do for the pour. for the moment. There's still maybe about a quarter of it left in the can, but I think that is good enough for us to take a look at for the moment. I'm still getting used to this new camera, of course, and all the orientations and things like that. But yeah, as you can see then, this beer has poured a lovely, how would we describe the colour of this one? That's actually a very kind of murky yellow, to be honest with you. So yeah, you can see that there's a lovely finger and a half, well, maybe finger and a half is a bit generous, maybe a finger and a quarter of a frothy, I would say, cream coloured head. I mean, if I bring that right up to the camera, just look at how kind of fine the froth is there. That's a lovely, lovely looking beer. But yeah, I'd say that it has a kind of a slightly cream tint to it. To be honest with you, I wouldn't describe that as perfect white, but yeah, it looks pretty damn nice. So one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass. You're getting a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. But I mean, overall, it looks pretty much as you would expect from a New England IPA. The level of haze on this one is pretty impressive. Remember, the level of haze that you get in these New England IPAs depends on the wheat and the oak content. It varies from brewery to brewery, but theoretically speaking, the higher you go up the alcohol scale, you should have more oats and more wheat in the beer. Thus it gets more hazy, but you know, it's not all to do with that. I guess the yeast can affect the level of haze that you get as well. But yeah, in terms of the colour of this one, it's definitely a yellow. It's not really leaning towards the amber side of things or anything like that, but it's a very kind of murky and quite dark yellow. I always like comparing the New England IPAs to different fruit juices and things, so this one almost comes across as like, you know, maybe like, you know, a mango and, you know, mango and peach juice, or orange and mango juice or something like that. It's got just that little slightly darker yellow quality to it, but as I say, impressive level of haze on this one. But yeah, in terms of its appearance, nothing particularly surprising about this beer when you consider what style it is. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with it. Yeah, that smells pretty damn good actually. I'm curious to see how this one comes across in the flavour profile. As I've told you in other videos, you know, when it comes to New England IPAs, there's kind of 6 directions you can take these. They can be kind of more yeasty and farmhousey. They can be sort of rye leaning and a little bit more kind of grainy. They can be oaty and creamy if you like. They can be a bit more wheaty and bitey. Or they can be a little bit more kind of brown sugary leaning. And there is one that I've missed out there. That's going to annoy me now. Ah yeah, they can be a little bit more kind of barley malty and sort of leaning towards the bready kind of side of things, like a sort of soft white bready character. On the aroma then with this one, it actually comes across as being, you know, quite soft and bready in a sense, but there's a good little bit of oaty character to this one as well. So yeah, a lot of soft sort of white bready notes coming out of this beer for sure. Yeah, straight away with this one you're going to get that soft kind of white bready backbone to the beer, which I think works out very, very nicely. The more that you smell of it, you start to get a little bit more of the kind of oaty smoothness, thickness, and it's almost got a slight kind of sweetness to it in a way, to be honest with you. But when you take the aroma of the beer in a little bit more deeply, you start to get just a little touch of that kind of more bitey wheat. But I would say that overall, the backbone, the malty backbone of this beer is a kind of nice, soft, it's a really nice kind of soft white bready character there, but the more and more that I smell of it, the more I get more wheat out of it, so it does become a little bit more bitey, I think, the kind of longer that you ponder over the aroma, to be honest with you. So yeah, nice little bit of wheaty bitiness there, soft kind of white bready backbone, and just a wee touch of a kind of oaty smoothness coming out there. But I do suspect with this one, and from my previous experiences with Deya, that the beer will show a little bit more of an oaty side as we actually taste it. But the Deya beers tend to lean towards that soft bready and kind of smooth oaty kind of character actually. So yeah, the aroma of this one is the aroma of this one on the malty side of things is quite nice. You do get a wee touch of kind of slightly brown sugary notes to the beer. You get a little bit of that kind of Werther's Original, almost very slightly caramelly, butter candy sort of thing from the alcohol in this one, and you know that's to be expected from an 8% beer, to be honest with you. You will get just a little bit of sweetness out of that malt base, but yeah, the malt base is kind of what you'd expect, and it is quite reminiscent of the other Deya beers that I've had prior to this one. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, the green component, what can we say about that? Yeah, the green side of things, I'd say that it's got a lovely kind of brightness to it, this beer. You get a good little bit of zestiness on the front of the nose, and it's quite grassy in that sense, but you've got a good little bit of kind of floral aromaticity sitting in behind the beer as well, which is really interesting. The floral aromaticity out of this beer, I think, is it's got a wee touch of kind of spiciness to it. But I mean, the thing is, with these New England IPAs, most of the hops are late addition hops, so this is the reason why this style of beer is not the most bitter. If you add the hops earlier on in the wort boil, if you like, that's when you're going to get more bitterness out of them. But as you kind of go progressively through the wort boil, you have that trade-off between bitterness and kind of more flavour and aroma components. But this beer does actually have a really nice kind of green side to it as well, to be honest. You get a nice little bit, it's got quite a bright floral aromaticity. I wouldn't describe it as spicy, to be honest with you, but I would say it's got a nice kind of, it does have a really nice sort of brightness to it, actually. So yeah, little kind of tiny touch of earthiness in there, but not too much. So yeah, the green component for me really leans towards a kind of zesty, grassy sort of thing, but you do have a wee bit of a kind of floral aromaticity just kind of coming in from behind that as well. So yeah, overall, the green component of this beer, I think, just gives it a little bit more of a kind of zesty edge almost. And like I said, you get more wheat coming out of this beer the further you go into it as well. So the beer does start to develop a bit of bitiness in the aroma too. But on the fruity side of things, which should be the main focus here, it's got a lovely kind of softness and juiciness to it, but also just a wee bit of citrusy kind of zing, if you like. So yeah, you do get a wee bit of that kind of stronger passion fruity note out of the beer. And I mean, when you've got Simcoe, Galaxy and Victoria's Secret in this, you're going to get quite a little bit of that. You can smell a wee bit of the kind of sharper note from the Galaxy coming out of this one, that like kind of peachy type quality. You can really smell that in here as well, and that's also kind of aiding the that really is sort of aiding the, how would you say, the sort of the kind of zestiness of the beer, to be honest with you. So yeah, stronger passion fruit in there, a little bit of sort of peachy zestiness, like I said, and then you can pick up the Enigma just kind of sitting underneath. You get a little bit of that more kind of oily gooseberry quality to it, and there's a wee tiny touch of that very kind of red fruity sort of thing that you'll get from Enigma as well. Actually, nearly forgot the name of the hop there, but yeah, the aroma of this beer is quite interesting actually. Like I said, this is the strongest beer that I've had from Deya so far, and it does take a wee bit of time just to break down the aroma. I think this beer takes a little bit of time to show its colours, but yeah, take a bit of time to ponder that over. But we're going to have a taste of this beer now and see how we get on. So this one is Written in the Dust, 8% New England Double IPA from Deya Brewing Company in Cheltenham in Gloucestershire over in England. Let's get stuck in. Slanju, skål, cheers. Yeah, it's another very, very solid beer from Deya, I have to say. It is one of the things with these New Englands, you know, this one, if I was blind tasting this, I would have no idea that this one was 8% ABV, apart from just the little touch of warmth you get down here. That gives it away. I know that, and in fairness, you can feel a wee bit of it coming out in the aftertaste as well, but when you've actually got the liquid on your tongue, it doesn't really give much of its alcohol away, to be honest with you. It's quite good at covering it up, actually. But yeah, you'll find with this beer that the bitterness actually builds in this one a little bit, you know, the further that you go into the aftertaste. But again, I'm just going to say straight away, thumbs up to Deya Brewing Company here. They've pulled off a solid beer, and it is quite interesting to try something that's just that little bit stronger, you know. But again, it's ridiculously smooth. Just a ridiculously smooth beer, this one. Oh, shoulder crack in there. Yeah. Getting old, guys, getting old. Yeah, still love the artwork on that can, I have to say. But yeah, That is pretty damn cool. Yeah, so let's try and break down the flavour of this one, I have to say. I'm just surprised at how kind of smooth this beer is. It's even softer, I think, than some of the other ones that I've had from Deya before. Yeah, OCD kicking in with the can again there. But yeah, straight away with this beer then, you can feel that nice kind of soft, white bready backbone. That just blankets the middle of your tongue there. On the middle third of your palate there, those nice kind of bread notes just sit there. But as you go further back onto that border region between the middle third and back third of your palate, you do get a wee bit of a kind of bread crusty sort of thing. And then on that back third of your tongue, there's a really nice sort of, there is quite a bit of wheaty bite to this beer actually. So I can really appreciate how that kind of goes together in this beer as well. So yeah, this beer, I think it really does develop. It feels actually quite dusty. I think there's quite, you can get quite a bit of the dry hopping coming out of this beer as well, come to think of it. So yeah, this beer, I'm maybe drinking this one just a wee touch fresh in fairness. I need to check the canning date in a little minute. But pardon me, you can feel a nice big kind of green hoppy dustiness on the edge of your palate there, but you also get that kind of wheaty bitiness. So yeah, this beer does have a wee bit of zip to it. Fair to say that, absolutely. But pardon me, yeah, on the back third of your tongue, as I say, you do get a nice little bit of a kind of wheaty bitey quality coming out of the beer. You can feel that the back third of your palate is just a little bit thicker, in fairness as well. So you get that nice kind of thickness on the back third of your palate there, which is great. And yeah, as you come further forward, you can feel that thickness just sits there. Then as you reach that border region between middle third and back third of your palate, the thickness just drops away, and then you've got that soft kind of white bready kind of underlining in the kind of middle third of your palate there. On the front half of that middle third of your palate, you can feel a little bit more of the kind of oaty smoothness to the beer, but the middle third of your palate really feels quite crisp in this one. But if you go to the very centre of your tongue, you can feel like a little sort of circle. You feel just a little sort of circle there, and then you've got this kind of butter candy sort of, you have this kind of like butter candy Werther's Original type thing coming out of the beer, which is again really quite interesting, to be honest with you. So yeah, I do like how that goes together, come to think of it. Yeah, you do get a really nice, how do you say, it does build in sweetness, I think, this beer, the further that you go into the aftertaste with it, but the malt base again is fairly kind of straight shooting, and it is quite reminiscent of the other Deya beers that I've had previously, to be honest with you. It just comes across, it's just got a little bit more kind of bite to it from the wheat, to be honest. I think that's, it feels like the wheat is the thing that's really driving the strength of this beer, to be honest with you. But yeah, quite crisp in the middle third of your palate, then slightly thicker and bitier in the back third of your tongue. I think that's fair to say. But on the hoppy side of things then, in the back corners of the palate, there is a wee tiny touch of earthiness there, which is, common with this style of beer. But as you move further forward, you start to get more, you start to feel the floral aromaticity appears quite quickly, and that builds and builds and builds, and it just gets a little bit more spicy as you reach that kind of the front corners of your palate there, which is just quite nice. But then round the front curve of the tongue, the beer is distinctly sort of lighter and more grassy in a sense. But this beer does have a fair wee bit of bitterness to it, come to think of it. And that's quite common with these, with the double IPAs. They do tend to be a little bit more bitter than the kind of regular singles or pale ales or whatever. So yeah, food for thought there, but we'll come back to the IBU count in a little bit. But yeah, around the front curve of your palate, it's distinctly lighter and grassier, and there is a wee bit of a zesty quality going on there as well. But yeah, the fruity side of this beer is quite nice, and it's quite a soft, juicy, fruity character you get on this one. So let's just focus on that front third of the palate then. So as I always say, on that front third of your palate, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy kind of fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. If you go to that kind of border region between front third and middle third of your palate, there is a little bit, you do get a wee bit of sort of bitey. You do feel a little bit of the kind of wheaty bitiness sort of sitting there as well. Then the front third of your palate, it's a sort of smooth, kind of soft white bready underlining that sits there as well. But yet the back of that front third of your palate, you get more of a, you do get a wee bit more of a kind of, there is a fair wee bit of strength to the kind of passion fruit there, and that will be coming both, you know, from Simcoe, Victoria's Secret, and from Galaxy. All three of those hops will be giving you a good little bit of that. But as you move further forward, you do start to get a wee, there is a wee touch of like a mango or something like that, and you get little hints of, you know, these softer apricot-y type flavours coming out of the beer. So yeah, that's what you get on the the back half of that front third of your tongue. But then as you move into the front half of the front third of your tongue, you'll get the more oily kind of gooseberry notes coming out from the Enigma. But sitting on top of both of those things, there's quite a zippy kind of sharp, just citrusy, zesty, kind of peachy quality coming out of this one. And you know, that's something that I noticed recently in a Spike Brewery beer from here in Sweden that I had. You know, they had a single hop Galaxy beer, and I really found the peach kind of notes coming out of that. And I've always considered Galaxy to be quite you know, to be quite passion fruit leaning, but it really does have a peachy element to it as well, and you can pick that up in this beer as well, absolutely. So yeah, good bit of passion fruit, good little bit of peach for me. Then it's got that oily kind of gooseberry sort of thing from the Enigma, and I think the further you go into the aftertaste, you'll feel at the very front of that front half, on the front third of your tongue, if that makes sense. Yeah, you do get a little bit more of a kind of oily sort of like, I'd hesitate to say cranberry like, but a little bit of sort of red curranty quality. Enigma will always just give you a wee bit of a kind of red fruity side as well. But yeah, the fruity side of this beer I think is again quite interesting, but it's stupidly easy to drink this one for a kind of 8% New England double IPA, but that's what we've come to expect from Deya. But a really interesting one actually. Overall, I would say this beer, as a New Englander, it's quite bitey and wheaty. It's got a good bit of kind of big sort of floral aromaticity and bitterness to it. Then it's got quite a citrusy zip to it as well, actually. So yeah, thumbs up to Deya for this one. Let's round off the review with the mouthfeel then. So mouthfeel wise, I would describe this beer as being, you know, kind of top end of mid-bodied. These Deya beers for me are always they always come across as having a little bit of slickness to them, and again this one's like that as well. So lovely kind of smoothness to it. As I've said, I would describe the mouthfeel as quite slick. There's a hint of kind of oiliness in there as well, but yeah, mid-bodied, smooth carbonation, slick, oily, and again quite smooth. In terms of IBUs, I think this beer's got to be about 50, sort of, maybe, yeah, I think 50 IBUs is probably a fair estimate for this one. It does feel like it's got a little bit more kind of bite and bitterness to it, and that's common usually. You know, normally a regular New England IPA is about 30. Quite often the doubles can be 40 or 50, you know, the triples can be like 50 or 60 depending on the brewery and, you know, what the brewer wants to do. But yeah, I think this beer has maybe about 50 IBUs. It does feel as if it's got a nice wee kind of bitter kick to it, but the malt base, like I said, is quite smooth and kind of crisp in a way. You've got a lovely kind of crisp white bready character coming out of this one. You've got a little bit of kind of sort of oily sweetness to the beer as well, just a wee tiny touch of that butter candy Werther's Original sort of thing, and then you've got a lovely kind of juicy sort of wet kind of fruit character coming out of the beer. But it does have a wee bit it does have quite a bit of citrusy zest to it, this beer, to be honest with you. So I really like how all of that kind of pieces together, to be honest with you. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This is a really good, another very, very solid New England IPA from these guys. Nice to try something that's a little bit stronger, of course, from them. That's my strongest beer that I've had from these guys so far, but I'm sure we'll find something else to have from these guys very, very soon, actually. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Written in the Dust, an 8% New England hazy, whatever you want to call it, double IPA from Deya Brewing Company in Cheltenham, in Gloucestershire in England. As always, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Deya Brewing Company. We will no doubt return to these guys fairly soon, so make sure you check out some of the beers. Steady Rolling Man is a very good place to start. Invoice Me for the Microphone is good. Or of course the Tappy Pills, I think, was a really solid lager beer actually. So yeah, make sure you check out this brewery. Make sure you check out my English beer tubing friends. A lot of these guys will review these beers more regularly than me. I think probably the most local beer tuber to this brewery has to be either Harry at Blue Nose Beer Reviews or maybe Dean from Dean's Beer Reviews. He's also quite close to them. So yeah, make sure you check out these guys, and hopefully I can review something else from them soon. The Written in the Dust 8% New England Double IPA from Deya Brewing Company in Cheltenham and Gloucestershire in England. Slàinte, Skull, cheers, and catch you guys in the next review.